Hey, what's good, world? Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. I'm the channel owner here at Pay Me No Mind. Wanted to talk about a little bit of boxing, get into some bite down boxing commentary. There's currently an article out here on Yahoo Sports from Kevin Iole about now presents a good time for us to address the mandatory situation for the the sanctioning bodies. And you can find an article on there. I don't really disagree with much of what Kevin Iole says, to be honest. I think the gist of his suggestion is that the sanctioning bodies need to rank the other champions. The WBA needs to include the IBF, the WBC, and the WBO champions on their list. And then furthermore, if you take those other champions and put them on there, that would push the contenders down, the top five contenders down theoretically, and then we'll put these champions in there, and then on the backside of that, he's also suggesting you have to defend a top. You would have that champions would have to have a mandatory against a top two contender within 15 months. Yeah, within 15 months, and then a top 10 or 15 defense every 9 months, I believe was what he said. I was trying to double check real quick. Required to defend the top five. Oh, a top five challenger every 9 months, and then a top two challenger every 15 months. I don't really disagree with that. I think that's pretty sound and pretty logical. My only issue there is I still don't understand how I don't understand how the networks and the promoters won't come into play when it comes to trying to make that negotiation. I guess the only factor here is going to be that if things aren't worked out, if negotiations aren't worked out, then I guess they strip I guess they strip the champion. Maybe that's what they do. So the situation he illustrates it. So if Errol Spence has the IBF and WBC title, he has that right now. If you took Terrence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao and put them in to the top 10 of the IBF, for instance, either or, if you put Manny and Terrence Crawford in there, they would be number one and number two for Spence's mandatories. And then you would push the next, whoever was one and two would go slide down to 3, 4, and 5, and so on and so forth. So, again, I get that. But I just don't know how. I don't know how you get around the network being the pitfall of trying to get the best to fight the best and to have unified, more unified champions. I mean, if money itself and the biggest purse possible, if that's not a major impetus or something that drives us towards unifications, I don't know what more you can do. It's not like, even though fighters, other champions aren't listed in the rankings, and there's not a path to make a mandatory title. Those champions are on those websites. They are listed on those rankings as the other champions. So it just seems like there needs to be some kind of reward for unification fights, which is money, which is the purses. So like I said, I don't know if bigger purses and a more stronger legacy isn't enough of a doesn't incentivize that enough, then I don't know how this really helps. Lastly, so I don't disagree with much of what he's saying. I just don't know how the current way that business is set up, I don't know how it doesn't block this from really having an impact. One other quick take. I'm not so mad at the whole mandatory process as is. because I think it gives some of these no name fighters or lesser known fighters a chance to eventually work themselves up to that number one spot and get a shot at a title. Now we did get fighting butts, a couple months ago, and we have had the Cesar Mita guy or whatever who's out there for Triple G. Those aren't the best examples, but I'll say this: I think I'm not so hard. That doesn't give me so much heartburn because I think in comparison to to MMA, when the best is really constantly fighting the best, you have shorter careers for these MMA guys. You don't root for many MMA guys over a 3 or 4 year period. And I don't know if that turnover in your champions is really good for the sport. You need some of these bigger names and these favorites. You need them to hang around for a prolonged period of time, especially when you don't want a guy to come in. Yeah, he gets a good win, but he doesn't have a couple of good defenses that stretch out over a period of time. So there's just no longevity there. So I think the Mando process kind of helps us get a little longevity from your champions once they get to that elite level. It needs to be a way in there to get a softer. I mean, they might not be popular, but there needs to be a way for a guy to get a showcase fight, get some work in, but it not be a situation where it's just going to diminish a guy ahead of schedule. Lastly, my last comment was when it comes to looking at all of these different titles, that doesn't cause me a whole lot of heartburn for the simple fact. I know it makes it more difficult for new fans to kind of understand what's going on, but new fans have to be patient. Like, you have to understand a little bit. It's no fair for you to come into the mix and expect everything to go to your liking or to be simple for you. Spend some time with the sport and understand what's what. And I will say also, in addition to that, the other sports already have all of these intercontinental or continental Americas or silver or diamond. Other sports already have that. You have wild card teams. You have the wild card race at the end of the season. NASCAR has a playoff system now. Football, you have your AFC champion. You have your NFC champion. You have your division winners. And then, you have your division winners and your wild cards. College basketball, in football, you have your regular season champion, you have your conference championship champion, and then in basketball, you have your your conference tournament champion and your regular season champion who can go on and be a champion. They can win the regional, they can win the district, and then you can be a Final Four team. So they're not. And then even during the regular season, you have your top 25 teams. In some of these divisions or conferences with the East and the West, or a coastal and a whatever it is, whatever they make them, you have the seed of that or the ranking of that team, and that's how they sell. That gives you the reason to tune in to watch the fight. So I don't see boxing doing any more of that when it's especially when it's one of the more junior belts. You don't really see it marketed as the silver champion, versus the such and such. But I think there needs to be some hierarchy there to be able to promote fights to get interest from fans. And I think if fans, anybody tunes in and sees a guy coming into the ring with belts, well, maybe they stop and check it out and see what it is. But again, there has to be some give and take. Newcomers, if the fight is good, people are going to tune in. And then hopefully there's some time taken to understand, who's who. What does this belt mean? What does that belt mean? Don't this? I mean, so I guess good fights just need to be made, and it heals or cures or solves all problems. But yeah, I don't think you take away all of these different titles. Now a guy can't command X amount of money for his purse. It's some structure and it's some reason there for all of that. The WWF as a little kid, there was the Intercontinental Champion. I think the hierarchy of these titles and whatnot have always been there, and so they don't need to be removed now when it could be hurtful to the fighters. Just have some patience. So with not much to check in, with not much to weigh in on boxing right now, that's just taking a look at Kevin Iole's new article on Yahoo Sports about fixing the mandatory process. It's called "Watered Down Belts Included Sanctioning Bodies: The Case Against Mandatory Title Defenses." Lastly, maybe the sanctioning bodies need to take into consideration a secondary ranking system. There's that transnational board or whatever. Maybe factor in some of those standings into your own standings and mix it up a little bit more. I don't know. That's just an idea. Hey, my name is Wood. Thanks for rocking with me. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button. And like I say all the time, man, bite down boxing. Don't let them count you out. Pay me no mind. Sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Stay safe. One.